I'm gonna do a quick tutorial, um, just kind of how I do my bracelets. Um, and this is gonna be the same thing as doing a necklace. It's the same process, just a obviously a necklace is gonna be longer. So this is just a simple strand necklace that I'm gonna show you today. I will show you everything I use, and I will link it in the description the best I can. Um, there are some things I haven't been able to find links to. I'm going to continue working on that before I post this as well. So hopefully I can post a link to everything, if not most things. Um, a lot of the stuff that I've bought in bulk, and so I can't find anymore, or I've bought it through resellers that don't um, typically keep it in stock, like wholesalers and stuff. But I will link as much as I can in the description so you can buy. The beads, I'm not going to, because this is a basic tutorial and it's just meant to be anything super easy. Um, just a simple strand. You're putting whatever beads you want to put on a string, use those. As you can see, I've got mine lined out here. You're going to need You don't need a bead palette. Some people like using them, some people don't. You can just lay them out. You want approximately 7 inches, because that's going to be your standard bracelet size for most wrists. If you have a smaller wrist, you can probably get away with 6 to 6.5 inches, or a larger, you'll probably go 7.5 to 8. My wrist is about average, so a 7-inch wrist bracelet fits my wrist pretty much perfectly, especially once I have these on, and then the clasp, it ends up being perfect. But you'll also need a couple of wire Guardians, and these I do have um, a link. These don't have to be anything super special. They're kind of horseshoe shaped. You just run your thread through one side. It sits in this little valley here, and then you thread it through the hole on the other side. And this just makes your ends look more complete, and um, gives the jump rings something to hold on to that's not just a thin little piece of thread. Um, so that just really brings the project together and makes it look more complete, especially when you use matching things. The set that I have linked in the description is a set that I bought, and there's so many of them that obviously I'm still using them. And it came with a bunch of different colors, and it's pretty cheap. Really, with these, unless you're doing something with like gold plated or silver plated, then you'll want to use better stuff if you're making, that kind of quality bracelet. But for the most part, as long as they're nickel free, I mean, they're basically the same thing regardless. Um, Now, jump rings, you're going to want some of these. I use 4mm just because it flows better with everything else. This is one of the things I haven't been able to find a link to, because I hate buying these on Amazon because you never know. Some of the manufacturers, the quality is just absolutely crap. I got these through a wholesaler, so finding a link for them is going to be really hard, because I don't think that company still has some. I can check their website before I post. I want to keep um, stuff as easy to buy as possible, so it's not like you have to go here, 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 here. But we'll do what I can. Um, but I stay away from buying like jump ring sets, because I've bought them in the past and they tend to be really weak and flimsy. So I try to stay away from those. Um, the next things you'll need is some needles, a needle, sorry. And this is the brand I use. Let me get the package out real quick. This is the brand I use. It's John James. Um, Now, these are more really for bead weaving, but also so is this. But they work great for me for everything. There was 25 needles. I bought these, I think, 2 years ago, and I still have quite a few of them because with just regular projects, these last me for a really long time. I end up losing them before they go bad, and then I'll eventually find them all like tucked into the sheet that I use for a tablecloth, or like just mixed in with stuff here. So yeah, I end up losing them before I use them all, or I end up accidentally throwing them away because I think it's a scrap piece of metal. Um, but yeah, these are really great. I still have quite a few of them. Eventually, I will have to get some more. I'm going to link these if I can find them as well. Um, the next thing you'll need, obviously, is going to be some kind of thread. I exclusively use Fireline, but Wildfire is another really good one. And there's also people will use just beading wire, multi-strand beading wire. My issue with beading wire is that when you use beading wire, you have to use like either crypt tubes or beads, or you have to tie it. And then when you tie it, then you have to use a knot cover. And this is just so much easier to deal with. I believe there's other colors as well of the Fireline. Um, but I use the crystal, which is a white color, and then the black smoke, which is a black color. And I use a lot more of this than I do of the black, because I'll usually use the white, the crystal, when I'm using like clear beads or anything light in color. Um, and then I'll use the black if I'm doing anything dark in color or stuff that's pretty opaque. I will be using the black today because, as you can see, I do have some black beads on here. And not only that, but everything on here is pretty opaque. So I'm not going to have to worry about this shining through anything and looking bad. So any chance that I get that I can use the black, I will use the black, just because it I use so much more of the white or the crystal than I do of this color. So any opportunity I can get. And me holding this here, in case you didn't notice, this is a fishing line. So if you or someone you know is a fisher and you've got some of this laying around, it's literally made by Berkeley, which is a fishing company. It's just microfused, heat-treated um, filament thread. So you can buy this at somewhere like Academy or like any kind of sporting goods store that sells fishing line. I don't think Walmart carries this anymore. I haven't seen it in Walmart in a while. You can also order it online from any of those type of places, or through Beadsmith themselves. Beadalon is another brand that's really popular, and they make Wildfire, which is very similar to this. I don't have any. I think I used the rest of it up. I don't like it as much because it is a little bit thicker, and it's tangles a lot more easily than Fireline does. So that's why I like Fireline for this. Fireline is stiff though, so if you're doing anything like, let's say, fringe earrings, you probably want to lean more towards like using thread, beading thread, not beading wire and not fish line, but like actual beading thread. And that's something I'll try to do a tutorial on at some point in the future as well. I've only done a little bit with that, like very, very little with that. So that's something I'm very new to as well. Um, but I guess I will. Oh, I do want to. The other tools you'll need, obviously, you'll need some scissors to cut the thread with. or the fishing line with. And then some chain nose and bent nose pliers. You can get these in a set. I've actually had these for a while. I think they were given to me as a set from Walmart, maybe. But I'll link a set where you can get these in the description. You can also get better quality ones individually. I believe you can get these at like hardware stores as well. Um, but I know you can get them at literally any craft store, Amazon, wherever. They're just, and obviously what I'm going to be doing with them, you can do 2 of these, just any kind of whatever. You're just going to be twisting open some jump rings with them. That's all we're going to use them for today. So again, anything. And then also, I didn't mention this yet, but you'll need some kind of clasp. I'm using a magnet clasp. So it just kind of matches the colors I have. And that's really it. So the beads, Fire Guardians, jump rings, tools, thread. So let's go ahead and get started. So what I usually do for a bracelet, and because I'm going to go back and forth a few times because you want it to be strong, is I try to get out maybe not quite a whole arm's width. Let me measure this. This is, I'd say, probably 38 inches worth of 38, 39. Let's go ahead and just say make it 40 inches. About 40 inches of thread to start out with. I say to start out with, but that's what we're going to do. And then we'll want to, obviously, we're going to put our needle on it. And that just makes it easier to pick up the beads and put them on this and go through the beads back and forth. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to go through all the beads. Put all the beads on here. And the next thing you're going to really want to do is you're going to want to try to push it towards the center. Get it as centered as possible. Because you're going to go back and forth with each strand through it. So get it centered as possible real quick. And then once you've got it centered, you kind of want to make sure that it's the length you want it to be and give yourself room for a clasp. So that's about what I want it to be. You also want to make sure if there's no flaws, anything you don't like, did you skip a bead? Because we're at the point of pretty much no return now. Not really. There will still be um, a little bit of time where you can double check, but honestly, at this point, it's kind of, you know, not much more room for repair. And so the next thing you'll do is you'll get one of these little wire guardians, the little horseshoe shaped thing, and you're going to go through one end. There's going to be 2 little holes, one on both each side. You're going to go through one end. with the needle, pull it through. So now the wire or your cord, the thread, is in there. And then you're going to go around to the other side. And you're going to go through that. And you're going to just pull it tight. And while you're here, you're going to want to make sure, I don't know how well I'm going to be able to get the camera to focus on it, but you want to make sure that your thread is in that little groove there. And then you'll just go back up through the beads. And what I usually do is I like to tie it every few bead. I'm going to go ahead and tie it at the first one. And I think I will tie after each large bead this first time through. So we're going to go ahead and tie here. And this is what's going to give it its strength, so it doesn't come apart, is tying it. And the way I do this, I feel like is so much stronger than, say, like the multi-strand beading wire that some people use, because those crimps do fail. Even the best of them fail. And there's a learning curve with learning how to use those. Sometimes it's just a pain, and this is just, to me, so much easier. It's a little bit more time consuming, but to me it's worth it for that peace of mind that this piece is not gonna break. I've been doing this method for about 2 years now, and I have not had anything break that has been done by this method. So to me, it's a tried and true method. Never had any problems with it. So, and I usually pull on my jewelry when I first make it. I will do like some test pulls just to see if it breaks, and I'll do that on camera with this piece, because it's just one of the things that I do at the end before I start putting on clasps and stuff. Um, Now, I have had clasps fail. I've had jump rings fail, which is part of why I've switched to just using, like, being really picky about the jump rings I use, because I have had those fail. I have had clasps fail. So I'm a lot more picky on what I use, because I don't want those to fail. You know, I don't want to try to sell something and it break because the jump ring was bad, or I don't want to be out, doing something, wearing something, and lose my bracelet because a jump ring failed. You know, so I am picky about that, but I've never had the strand itself fail since I've started doing this method. So that's why I stick with this. Of course, everybody has their preference. Like I said, this is a bit more time consuming, because honestly, if I'd have just done it the way most people do it, I'd have already been done with this bracelet and possibly even make another one in the same amount of time. But again, like, if it's just gonna break, why bother? If it's not gonna withstand, like, you know, oh, you wear this to work and it gets snagged on something. Well, the worst that would happen with this is the jump ring gets stretched out or something, and it can be fixed easily. Whereas, you get something caught with a bad uh, crimp tube or something, then you've broke the entire bracelet. Or, if you're wearing a necklace that's made the same way and you've got a grabby baby that pulls on it, then, oh, you might break the clasp or the jump ring. but the necklace itself is just fine, you know. Or if you're like me and autistic and have meltdowns, so you have a kid that's autistic and has meltdowns and they pull on your stuff, then again, you don't have to worry about it breaking beyond repair. I mean, it won't break beyond repairability. You might, again, stretch out the jump ring, but that can be fixed, a lot easier than restringing a whole bracelet or necklace. Um, and again, I do use much better quality jump rings and clasps and stuff, but there's only so much they can withstand, honestly. You know, only so much force that they can handle before they break. Even the best of the best can only withstand so much force. So if you're actually tugging on it, then you can break the jump rings or and the clasp. But everything else, I have never had an issue with. So we're gonna go. We've reached the end. I'm putting the other wire Gaurdian on, and it's gonna be the same way. You're gonna go through one hoop or one loop. You're gonna go around it, and you go through the other hole, and you make sure that your cord sits in that little valley there. And then this time around, I'm gonna go in through multiple beads. I'm gonna go through this first one first. We're gonna go through these next 5. And then we're going to go through that big one there. And once we get through that big one, that's going to be when I'm going to go ahead and tie. And that's going to be what makes this tight. And so we're going back in this direction, and I'm almost to the end of my cord. So we're only going to go a little bit further in this direction before we go ahead and grab that other end of the cord. And that'll just really tighten everything up. So I'm just going to go through a little bit more. I'm going to go through, and I'm going to tie here. And then I'm going to go through to the next large bead, and I'm going to stop there. So we're going to have a little bit of a hangout here. And then we're going to come over to this other side, and we're going to basically do the same thing. We're going to go up through the wire Gaurdian, down through the wire Gaurdian, and then down through all the beads. And this time, I usually try on the last time through, which is going to be the second cord. I usually try to tie between each bead just to give like some extra strength to it and make sure that it doesn't come undone. Is that necessary? Probably not, but it's always something I've done, so that's what I do. So, oops, come on. And I'm going to do this a few times here. Just tie it off real quick. And then by the power of video editing, I will speed up until I am at the end and meet back. So just a few more times here. Go through a bead, tie a knot, go through a bead, tie a knot. Again, this is probably not necessary, but it just gives me a little bit more peace of mind. So again, just gonna do this until I'm done, and I will speed up this video from right about now and be back when I'm done. Okay, so I'm going to come back on here real quick. We're getting to the end of the bracelet here. You can see my string is coming from that very last bead. Well, not the very last, second to last. I'm going to tie off there, and then we're just going to do the same thing we did on the other side. We're going to go up through the large bead, come through. Come on, get my cord on the right side. Come up through the large bead, and we're just going to pass through the wire Gaurdian like we've already done. Just up through the wire Gaurdian, pull through, and then down through the wire Gaurdian on the other side, pull through, and make sure your cord is in that little valley there. And then we'll just go back through that big bead just like we have been. And I'm going to go back to sped up until I am complete. So I will probably only do a few more, and then so I decided to go ahead, and that's it. So before I cut off, I like to just pull on it a little bit and just try to test its strength. As you see, I'm pulling pretty hard and nothing's coming off. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut these strings off. That's going to be the next thing. So handy dandy scissors, cut those strings off, and then I will massage the beads around a little bit in that spot to try to hide that little cutoff spot. And then again on the other one, come on, there we go. And again, just massage it so that it hides in there and you can't see that it was ever cut. So the next thing, obviously we're done with that. So the next thing is you're going to need your pliers and your jump rings and your clasp. So this clasp actually comes with some jump rings. I think I am going to go ahead and use the jump rings that come on it. They feel pretty sturdy. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the jump rings that are on it. So we're going to go ahead, pull apart our clasp. Of course, I chose a magnetic clasp for this, just because I had it readily available, and sometimes magnetic clasps are kind of nice. So you're just going to grip one side of the jump ring with one pair of the pliers and the other side with the other pair. Grip it, and you're just going to twist it apart. The downside of magnetic clasps is they want to stick to everything, and that makes it a little bit more difficult to work with them. But it also makes them easier to put on and take off. So once you've got it open a little ways, I don't know if you can see that, but once you get it open a little ways, you'll just hook it onto one side of the wire guardian on one end of the bracelet, and then I usually just close it by doing that. Just pinch it together like that, and I just kind of check to make sure there's no openings like that. I may have to go ahead and use one of my normal jump rings. Yeah, because these aren't working for me. So I'm going to go ahead and use one of my normal jump rings. So I'm going to get a couple of those out, one for each side of the clasp. These are significantly smaller. Small jump rings are harder to work with, but they look better in most projects, in my opinion, because they just kind of they're not as obvious, so they just kind of blend in a little bit better and look a little bit nicer. But again, they are harder to work with, and some people might not have the eyesight or the manual dexterity to work with them, and that's perfectly fine. Larger jump rings look just fine as well. It's just my preference. And again, I just kind of pinch it around, make sure it's closed, because you want to make sure it is fully closed, or that jump ring can have stuff slip out that little gap. And some people like to either put a drop of glue or solder that gap close. I haven't felt the need to do any of that. Um, to me, that's a bit much, but for some people, it's gives them that extra peace of mind. Um, and some people will use what's called split rings instead of jump rings, which basically a miniature version of a key ring. It's just a double layer jump ring. The jump ring will roll like rotate around back on itself, for lack of a better word. I guess circle around back on itself. Forgot that I gotta take this bigger jump ring off. Take that off. And oops, there we go. There it is. And the ones I'm using right now, I believe, are 4mm jump rings. Again, they're a little bit more difficult to work with than some of the larger ones, but in my opinion, so much better. But everyone has their preference. I feel like it's worth the battle. So, and it'd be a little bit easier if I wasn't working with magnets. The magnet clasp kind of makes it a little bit more difficult because it tries to stick to everything that's metal. So, like it keeps, right now, keeps sticking to the tool. Okay. And I just double check, make sure that that jump ring is closed. And it is. Well, I think I can do a little bit better. Let's go ahead and there we go. So I just make sure that the jump wing is closed, and that's it. Looks perfect to me. All right. Thank you for watching. Like I said, this same tutorial can be used to make a necklace as well. You're just going to make a longer strand. It's the same thing. It's just super simple bracelet, super easy. Thanks for watching. I plan to do more tutorials in the future. I also plan to do like some reviews and you know some shorts, stuff like that. So like, subscribe, comment, um, and follow me on my other social media platforms as well. I'm on TikTok and Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, the whole 9 yards. So like and subscribe and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.